especially knowing that life is busy, it means a lot when you set that time apart and you're like, okay, I'm committed. It's like a big sign of commitment. And like, you feel so special and so seen and understood. Like when someone approaches me with that intention, I'm just like, meep, okay. You know what I mean? Like, yes, she is.
Yeah, no,
it just like, it like makes me feel like, it's more of that. It makes me know that I'm important to that person, right? Because intention shows value and priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should take a course on intent. I really do. Ooh. I think if more learning mentors were taught the importance and impact of being intentional and seeing a human being as an individual, the world would be just a totally different place.
Hi, I'm Amber.
And I'm Elayna. We're glad you're here to join us where
everything is learning.
Hey, how's it going?
Dude, it's going pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, it's going well.
Nice.
This has been such an exhilarating experience so far. I don't know how you're feeling about it.
Same, seas.
It's just really exciting when we've been having these conversations about these topics for such a long time.
Oh my God, right?
And it's just mind-blowing. Like, we're finally turning it into a podcast. We're really hoping that it reaches anyone, even just one person,
right,
to kind of help. And it's just one of those sharing experiences where we love talking about this. We're very passionate about it, but it's just all actually happening, which is so
the
cool.
Culmination of so many things.
Yes.
And then the fact that we never thought we'd be here is also kind of funny. So, like, for so many reasons, but I don't want to take us off topic today. But it is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I agree. But you're right. I was thinking about a lot of that stuff after our last conversation going into this one. And I think a lot of what you were just airing to is also applicable to discuss, because today we're going to be talking about, challenges that we face through our learning experiences.
Yeah.
And we've already shared on the podcast how we're consistently learning. We're constantly learning, that we're all really different because we're all individuals. And, oh my gosh, I just had this sort of epiphany, actually. Like, here we are talking about learning.
Right.
How we're all different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the huge. How we're all individuals. And out there are traditional educational and professional settings where they are encouraging people to be and learn the exact same way at the exact same time. And it's insanity. Like,
it is insane. But you know what? Like, the thing that blows my mind the most about it is this country is one of the countries that does the most research on these topics, right? On how we learn best, what's needed for optimal learning, how the brain functions, neuroscience, blah, blah, blah. All of the science says we are not the same. We shouldn't be treated the same. And yet,
here we are.
Don't listen to any of it. And we just, talk about like,
it is. It's insanity. Like, we all need personalized learning experiences. It's just a fact.
100%.
It's essential in order to improve engagement, personal growth. The list goes on. It's just, it's so much more highly effective than getting a square peg to fit in a round hole.
Because you know what you have to do that?
What?
You have to shave off some of those corners.
Right.
But the corners are there for a reason. So it makes it a square.
Right.
Ugh.
I don't like it. No, I don't like it one bit.
But I'm totally with you.
Yeah. I guess my main thought to start the conversation off today is that society creates and then reinforces and encourages constraints when it comes to learning. So challenges are inevitable.
Unfortunately, I could not agree more. Like, yeah. I mean, as I was thinking about today's conversation, like, I realized that the more I've gotten older, I guess I've come to appreciate challenges differently than when I was younger. But seeing those kind, like the societal ones, that just frustrates me, right? Those are hard ones to kind of change. But other challenges, I guess, and challenges as a whole, I think I'm trying to see them differently because, like you said, they're inevitable, right? Like, I think I've come to appreciate the fact they're just part of the journey.
Yeah.
Totally still frustrating. Every time when I'm working with a student, I give us 3 seconds for any big feeling, whether it's fear, anxiety, frustration, like get it out. And then we move on, right? Because
Right.
challenges, obstacles, they're just a part of life, like you said. Now, some of those obstacles and challenges, like they all have different kinds of outcomes, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's a part of it too, is kind of regulating, instead of catastrophizing, but like, what are the actual outcomes? Because you could be dying of dysentery on the Oregon Trail, right? For real, or in the video game. So the challenge is called the same thing. Outcomes are a little different. I only know
Just a
about the
little.
video game one, and that was heartbreaking enough. That was heartbreaking enough. Oh, man.
Oh, I've got some stories about that game. That is such a good throwback.
Oh, it's the best game ever.
It really is
It
so
is such a
good.
great game. I think you can find it online still.
Oh my gosh, don't
I
even
feel
say
like
that.
I feel
The
like you just
next
need
like
to
8 hours of my life would
right.
be a total waste. I would just be sitting. If y'all
That is
don't
not a
know about the
waste.
Oregon
That is
Trail,
not a waste of any time. That is still learning, right? Because on the Oregon Trail, the video game. No, I don't think it's a video.
Windows 90,
Right?
whatever, 98.
Barely passable as a computer game. A computer
Oh,
game. We'll go with that one. But like
computer. Yeah.
in that one, because you're not actually dead, it's a great place to like it becomes just an opportunity, right? It's just a chance to develop new skills, try a different approach, try a little different strategy, even just practicing persistence,
Right.
practicing grit, right? All that is good stuff. And I think that's all great to learn from the Oregon Trail game.
Oh my gosh, I love
Game.
that.
Game.
Game. Yes, absolutely the game. That's
Love
yeah,
it.
that's really funny. In the sense of, well, first off, like I said, love a good throwback. But it's such a great perspective to think about our response to challenges and how challenges are an essential part of learning and in life in general. Like
Right.
without challenges, I don't think we have as great an opportunity or maybe even incentive to like adapt or change or improve.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean
it's
like
also like, sorry to cut you off. It's like
no, no, you're
also
good.
that idea of we only know what good is because we've experienced bad, right?
Oh,
If we didn't have one or the other, it would just be. We can
that's
only have
interesting.
good if we have bad. So we can really only have um good growth, good investment in ourselves, all that kind of triumph and victory over hardship when you have hardship. And that just makes you stronger.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Thanks, man.
It's interesting. What you just said made me think of the hard part in my perspective is identifying and understanding the challenges.
Oh, so hard sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean it has a lot to do with regulating and understanding that some challenges we have control over and some we don't.
Yeah, I mean, even that, I just realized that even that idea is like a societal constraint or restraint. Like that's a thought that we have in society, right? That like you're
Yeah.
born this way or you're not. And like to some extent, yes, but we have a lot of control over a lot of things,
Right.
more than we realize.
I
But
agree.
naming it can be so hard because of
Yeah.
all these other societal things that go with putting a name on certain things, right? Or saying that I'm not good at something or this is hard for me. Like
Yeah,
that's
oh.
not commonly accepted. That's not something that we do. We act
Oh,
like we've
great.
got it all put together.
Well, yeah, and that is reinforced constantly. I do think naming and identifying our challenges, and then
Yeah.
I even wonder sometimes if like admitting we have the challenges, kind of what you were just saying, are the
Right.
two hardest steps.
Yep.
But they're the first ones that we really need because we can't work on things if we aren't aware of it. And I know for me, it was harder to identify exactly what a challenge was.
Mm.
And it wasn't as hard to admit it. I don't mind admitting that like I have faults or I have challenges. really for me pinpointing and identifying, because I love solving problems and
Oh,
personalizing
yes.
strategies. Like
Yes, give me a
that.
puzzle, please.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I just think to fix the issue is far easier than to first identify. I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
me.
Well,
What do you think?
especially when it comes to yourself. And then when it
Mm,
comes to a challenge like within, I think, your own children, because you see so much of yourself. If that's something that you struggle with, you see that your struggle in your child. So it's hard to put all that together. And I do have a hard time. I have for a long, like, I have a hard time admitting that I have challenges. And as not, I'm getting a lot better at it. And I think one of the things that helped me was helping others,
yes.
because I realized that every time I worked with somebody, um, because we all have our own set of limitations or challenges, whatever word you want to put on it, whatever. We all have things that get hard. And
Right.
um, when I work with someone, I'm always just like, well, yeah, it's hard. Okay. Hard is just a 4-letter word, whatever. It's just a word. And a challenge is just a sign of humanity. It just means you're human, just means you're normal. Sorry, you're just like the rest of us. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
totally cool. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. And I realized that, like, as I was saying that more and more, I was convicted one time. I just realized, like, why am I putting myself in a different category? Like, why am I saying that? Well, yeah, of course, everyone has challenges, but for some reason, I'm not allowed to. Like, I'm
Right.
just as human, right? So of course I'm going to have hard hardships and struggles and challenges and whatever too. And acknowledging them and then just being like, okay, it is a thing. Because we all have them, this is a neutral statement.
Right.
And now that it's a neutral statement, I can find a solution to it because it's just a thing. It doesn't mean anything about me other than I'm human. Part of that, like, helper mindset sometimes. It's funny,
It,
but it's
it's
a cool thing.
it is a cool thing, and it's interesting the way that you talked about that, because first off, I 1,000% agree, and it's making me realize that I don't know that anyone ever said to me directly,
Mm,
Elayna, be intentional about your learning.
right.
I I do think, looking back, there were subliminal messages, kind of like what
Mm,
you were just saying. I think what you were saying and what you say when you provide support to other people, I think the disarming of it, I think the neutrality of it is all really helpful. I just sometimes wonder if somebody sat me down and said, Elayna, be intentional about your learning, and then this is what that looks like, what
right.
how that would have changed things for me. And I was so young, I didn't have the language, but I do realize that my response to the subliminal messages were, I personalized everything outside of school so I could find success.
Yes.
I don't know if
Oh
that
my
makes
God,
sense.
so crucial. Yeah, 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 yeah. What I love about that is I actually had two thoughts going on as you said it. And it was about both my parents. So one, my parents model out things. My parents never had expectations for all of us to get straight A's on our report cards, nothing like that. They expect us to do our best. One of my the phrases I most associate with my dad is, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Hmm.
And so that is intention, right? In that
Yeah.
phrase. It doesn't have the word intention, but that's a perfect statement of intention. And then also realizing that where that mindset, what the intention was, right?
Right.
So the intention wasn't always, and especially academically, wasn't performative, but it was do your best, make progress, put in the effort, ask for help. Like, those were kind of the ideas that we were given. And then my mom was like the queen of personalizing. And I don't mean that in the let me whip out my Cricut and make vinyl stickers to put names on everything. We are not a name on things family, but we all had a color. I have a large family, one of six kids. So we each had a color, everyone in the family. So you would have your toothbrush that color, so you know whose was whose. You had, a towel, that your towel's that color. You had everything. Plates, no, that was normal. But cups for like during the day, especially in the summer. So she would know who left their cup out. Genius.
That is genius.
Then that same color was also used on back in that day, the day of Oregon Trail on the computer, paper calendar. And so, my color was green. So in green marker, she would write doctor's appointment 2:00 and didn't have to put all the extra information about who it was. Just so like my mom is the queen of personalizing the world to her. And like, it's really neat to see, especially as I got older and kind of got into education, looking at how much of a amazing model that was. And then, so just those two ideas is a really neat combination when you think about it.
It's cool that she personalized it for herself, but she also individualized it for each of you.
Oh, 100%. Because we picked our colors.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And my favorite color still is green.
Oh, there you go.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think personalize them, like you were saying, it also is so natural if you think about it, right? Because
I agree.
When you're outside, like you said, when I came home from school, I personalized as much as I could my day, right?
Right.
Because that's where we can personalize it when you're outside of that
traditional environment, traditional environment.
Any 100%.
Yeah.
So you found the hobbies that you liked and the interests that you liked, and that made you, I mean, you're into so many things as a result.
Right.
And I think that that's just so cool and so important to us. Like that intention on personalizing your life and kind of, it always shifts our focus, right? So if you're focused on growth, right? If that's your intention, that's where we're going to see value in your life. And I think, like you're saying, society and life pulls us in so many directions, and a lot of them aren't towards these deeper internal actual growth things, not about necessarily deepening ourselves. And I think that alone is a challenge.
Agreed.
I mean, there's so many challenges when it comes to intentionality, but like, what are some that stand out to you? Like, what anything you, off the top of your head?
For me?
Yeah.
Gosh, there's a million, but as an adult, I think relationships can be really challenging to navigate.
See, we're naming them. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it. Full transparency. I think because life and society have encouraged busyness over connection.
Oh my God, that's a perfect way to say it,
intentional living, slow living, in mental health for so long.
Purposeful living, yeah.
Yeah, it's purposeful, right. I think nowadays there are more examples of it, and you see other people encouraging.
Oh, thank God. I love it.
I love it. I know how much you love scrolling through social media and stuff, and I love when you tell me about some of the things that you're seeing and people slowing down to connect, or even just one of the biggest lessons I learned as an adult is that I can actually say no to being too busy.
Yes.
Which I only learned due to the pandemic.
Yes.
Truly,
100%.
Honestly, like
I'm with you.
I had 100 things going on every single day. No joke. You can ask anyone who knows me personally. I mean,
Right.
And I learned how to say no. Now, I think the other part, going back to the relationship piece, is, my partner and I, like, we reflected a lot on the fact that, like, before marriage, it was a lot easier and more effortless to, like, be intentional with one another, because it's that stage of, like, wanting to be around a person and intentionally making time to spend together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what, honestly,
and that preparation for the future stage. You know what I mean? It's a unique place, right? Because you're literally intentionally weaving your lives together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Yeah.
And I think there's not as many commitments when you're younger and in a relationship too.
Right.
And then married life for us was like super exciting and new, and it was still pretty easy, maybe even more so than initially, because now you've made a different level of commitment to each other.
Right.
Which, means
whatever
it means to all these different people. But then we had children, and our conversation became about the kids, to the point where, like, we would go out to eat as like a date and talk, and all we were doing was like, I wonder what the kids are doing.
Right.
And we're like enjoying a
They're
meal out
sleeping.
and we're missing them. Yeah, they're sleeping or they're playing with their grandma or they're,
they're not thinking about you. You should be enjoying your dinner. They're snoozing.
Should be.
No, I'm just kidding. But it's so hard because that intention gets pulled in two directions now. Right. And I think naturally, especially as, like, I think maternally, that's a thing is that intention shifts to, especially a baby and all that kind, it's natural that
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
a pull and stuff.
there is like a natural biological piece to it for sure. And I think that makes it sometimes even harder because we started realizing that like we had to be really intentional about connecting with one another.
Yes.
And not just one another, but also not getting so caught up in parenthood, which we wanted and we prayed for so long. And it's so easy being captivated and present with little ones.
Oh my God, right?
It's exhausting.
There is no better TV ever.
Yeah, there really is no better entertainment than looking at something that was created and is constantly learning and is just excited about everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger piece of the relationship piece that like we learned about was that unfortunately other relationships can unintentionally fall to the wayside. So intentionality has been a huge part of our relationship and our lives in the more recent years. But
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I
think because like personally, I love the idea of setting time apart to intentionally spend with someone else.
Yeah.
I am not a crowds person. I'm a one-on-one person.
Yes.
And like intentionally like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this time, especially knowing that life is busy. It means a lot when you set that time apart. And you're like, okay, I'm committed. It's like a big sign of commitment. And like, you feel so special and so seen and understood. Like when someone approaches me with that intention, I'm just like, meep, okay. You know what I mean? Like, here she is.
Yeah, no,
it just like, it like makes me feel like it's more of that. It makes me know that I'm important to that person, right? Because intention shows value and priority.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think everybody should be. I think everyone should take a course on intent. I really do. Ooh. I think if more learning mentors were taught the importance and impact of being intentional and seeing a human being as an individual, the world would be just a totally different place.
I agree. I'm going to do a yes and.
Oh, yes. Give it
yes
to me.
And. Can we take it from just a course to just a constant life lesson and message?
Yes.
Right? What if we all just do this all the time and are like, listen, you are who you are, but I love you enough to help you grow and develop further. Let's do this intentionally. You know what I mean? And like, because I think if learning is the priority, right? If that growth is the priority, then a lot of challenges will work themselves out naturally because you're learning that some of these things really aren't actually important enough to worry about. That, like, I think you were saying with the pandemic, I think that was a large part of it was I realized that a lot of these things weren't benefiting me.
Right.
And not that everything should only benefit me, right? It's a give and take in life. But when I realized that there was not as much benefiting me as I needed to have. I was giving a lot more than I was getting. Yeah. And the pause made me realize, oh, that's actually what I need. Maybe these other things aren't that important. Maybe I can go back, or they're important and I can go about it another way.
Right.
Right? Like, I can still find an avenue to have financial success, whatever it might look like, that is not the traditional way because I don't fit in that traditional mold.
Right.
And it does work for some people. That's great. But I think, like you're saying, finding your own thing is so important. And that has to start with the intention of looking out for yourself, getting to know yourself. What do you need? And then focusing on that and focusing on your growth, right? I think, like, if learning that idea of growth and progress is valued, and I would dare say to us it's one of the highest priorities probably, that I think, like, on the seas of life, the turbulent seas that they are, learning then becomes the telescoping lens that we see challenges through, right? We can spot them. Oh, I see it. I identified this challenge. But then you've also got these, it also is the lighthouse that allows you to see around it and find another way, navigate through those challenges to get back to clear seas.
Wow. Yeah. Well done. That
Thank
is
you.
such a beautiful image to think about.
Man, I need an analogy. I need a metaphor. I need a picture.
I know. I you know me. I love a good mental image.
Same seas.
As we navigate those rough storms, aka challenges, like what's the number one challenge you believe learners are actually facing today?
Well, after that, well done. And now you've given me a soapbox. Thank you for coming here today to my TED Talk. I appreciate you. I'd like to start with, no, I'm just kidding. Honestly, though, in the last few years, it's really, I think I've pinpointed a big thing that the biggest thing I think I've noticed. I'm going to call it the microwave mentality that exists today in our society. Basically, societal norms, I'm going to say, is the biggest challenge. And I think there's a lot of them. You know what I mean? This would be, I think, one of the biggest ones. But the idea that everything is so immediate. We're used to immediate things. I can go get food quickly, right? I can get it brought to me if I don't want to go get it. Listen, I can go to fast food and get what they call food in like a couple of minutes, right? And if I have to wait more than 2 days for a package, I am so perturbed. Thank you, Amazon, for ruining that. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
I'm waiting on something now that is not from Amazon. I was like, oh my goodness. I forgot what life was like back in the day. Like, and then if Amazon, overnight for free, please, because I gotta
yes.
get it. Could I leave my house and go get it right now? Yes, but I don't want to. That's a whole different story. But anyway, like this instant gratification mindset has had a really interesting effect on us because we aren't willing to wait for things. And I think, unlike my Amazon order or my Burger King meal, don't judge, learning, like intentional learning, takes time and effort, right? To progress in a skill, to get better at anything, it takes time and effort. A lot of things we can learn, some things we can learn passively, but a lot of things take that. And like having to be active in it and not just wait. Like whether you're learning to walk, whether learning a new language, learning a new skill, everything takes time and it takes work. It takes effort. And kids today, they're so used to immediacy.
Oh, yeah.
And so for them, that immediacy of instant entertainment, the second I ask for an iPad, the instant microwave anything, give me a meal in a couple of seconds, right? Like all of that stuff, convenient, everything. It is nice and convenient, but kids don't realize that is, they bring that into the classroom or those traditional learning environments too. And so they don't realize, they've decided that if I don't get it right away, I'm just not smart, I can't do it, whatever. And just the fact that time and effort are part of the game. I don't know. Do you remember a couple years ago, there was this statistic going around, I think it was from like a Malcolm Gladwell book. It was based on a study from like 1993 that a lot of people, it's kind of contentious, but originally he was saying that like it takes 10,000 hours you can learn anything. That was like the statement, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Not exactly true.
Right.
So like new studies are kind of showing, and I think, so I got these from Josh Kaufman, and basically he is putting out that it takes about 10,000 hours to become like an expert in a competitive field.
Okay.
To learn something really well, it takes on average 20 hours of practice. 20 hours of practice. That's still a fair amount of time to learn math facts and to learn spelling, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then to get better at that, that's just to learn an initial concept. Right. So getting better at it, time is essential for learning.
Oh, I agree. Just is. I would almost venture to say like time is so essential for learning that for me, it's kind of my number one greatest challenge.
Fair. Yeah, I hear I hear that.
I really struggle, or I would even, I guess, because I've done a lot of personal growth with time. Not just because I love like being an efficiency expert of sorts, but also, which sounds really conceited, but I love taking someone's day and being like, oh, let's do this, oh, let's do that. But I
like
struggle with it for myself.
efficiency the most in tasks I don't want to do.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be productive every single moment of every single day, if I'm being honest with you. I love me some downtime.
But that
I'm a
I like
recharge my
planning
batteries
into.
kind of girl.
Yes.
But yeah, no, and time is crucial in so many of these areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think having enough time in the day to do anything.
Yes.
I almost wonder if maybe that started, because I don't remember feeling that way in high school, but I do remember like my first year in a classroom and thinking about it. Yeah, like if you think about it from like a traditional education setting, or even a business setting, there are so many timelines. There's sales numbers that you need to get by a certain, meet a certain quota. There's curriculum that needs to be taught. Parents at home, when their kids are young, they need to get their children to meet developmental milestones by a certain period of time. Like that's all really strenuous.
Right.
There are deadlines for young learners and societal pressures that tell you like time is of the essence, and here's your timeline for when to graduate and buy a house and have children and get married. And
then all of these things you need to do in just one single day has to be shoved into all this time.
Oh my gosh.
There's not enough time for all these things that we're telling you have to do for whatever reason. Yeah.
And I will say, like, now, the way that I've found that I can respond to that stressor is I have numerous strategies that I implement on a daily basis for myself and my family and learners I work with and support and families I work with and support. But it's really difficult to get there, which is why I think time is probably one of the greatest struggles that learners are facing right now. But it's almost like in order to get there, you have to figure out a way to challenge or block the norms and expectations. And you have to do that first so that you can come back to understanding time and the way you use it is important. And it goes back to being intentional. And I used to be a much more anxious person. But again, as we've talked about challenges, they teach us lessons that are truly invaluable.
100%. And like, you're looking at time on one side, and then on the other coin, there's also in traditional learning settings, not enough time for most learners to actually master goals. Because everyone learns these things at different times.
Because everyone's brain is different.
Exactly. And so, we're increasing anxiety in kids by saying like, okay, you have an hour for this test. And it's just, they could do the test and pass it 100% if they had more time.
And some can do it in 20 minutes. And some can do it in 2 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're able to do it to the level that we need them to do it at, then, but time has to be a constraint in these large societal traditional norms. Like, it's unfortunately such a thing. It's totally a societal issue, and we've created this culture where everything is fast. So you better buckle up and pray you can keep up. And a lot of kids are feeling that in the classroom. A lot of us adults are feeling that just in the everyday life. We are so tired.
Yep.
Because we're just so busy and we are pouring and not being poured into. Like, I mean, like we, in my house, we have done a lot. Also, some of our strategies have really just been changing the whole 9-to-5 situation. We work from home. We work in ways that we like to do and are convenient for us and work for who we are. And those natural, I guess, limitations are just, neutral facts about us and who we are.
Right.
So
who you are now.
Who we are now.
Because who you were a few years ago. Like, it's so
I was
amazing.
The same person back then. But I was trying to fit into, I was trying to take my square self and fit into a round hole.
Okay.
So I didn't allow myself to be my circle self or my square self because I was trying to be round.
Yeah,
so I was the same person, but I was forcing myself to live a different way. because of that, I wasn't free, and I feel like a completely different person.
That's what I mean. That's
And
what
so,
I mean
like,
to say.
I feel because I'm more myself now because I'm not trying to be somebody else. Like, so I feel more of
Yes.
myself than the person I was trying to be. But anyway, I just think, like, yeah, because the time was a big thing for me and I didn't realize it. And
Right.
we made these adjustments, and it's been life-changing for sure.
I
For
completely
sure.
agree.
Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned some strategies. Like, what are some of the strategies that you have used and like help others with when it comes to time? Because I don't think not everybody can have the same approach I did, right? For so many different reasons.
That's fair.
So, like, are there other ones that might be for other kinds of people?
Yeah. I think staying present is probably the most difficult one to attempt at first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But by far the one with the most significant impact for learners at any age.
Yes.
I'm thinking about like
huge.
parents navigating toddlers, and like just being
Right.
present in the moment. I'm thinking of, someone who's sitting in a cubicle at work, who's like, I just need to get through this day. But if you're present in the second, in the moment, and you're doing what you're needing to be doing, even if you don't want to, it's a lot easier to be focused instead of looking that far forward where you can't control that piece yet because you're not there yet.
Some of the ways, like, if we are present, we have more control over the future than we realize.
Yes, and that is such an excellent point, because what you're doing is you're prioritizing the moment you're in.
Yep.
And that's another one, prioritization. That seems to be like something people would go, oh yeah, that's super easy. It really isn't. I don't mean just choosing what gets done first. I mean personalizing what the process of prioritization is, or what does prioritization look like in your life? What are some strategies you already use? What are ways I can help you to identify implementation of prioritization in your life? What's your schedule? What's working? What's not working? What's stressing you out? What's not stressing you out?
Oh, I mean, that should be an easy place for a lot of people to start. Because we complain all the time about what stresses us out, so we should be able to identify that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
But it really is. Prioritization it's much more complicated and time consuming if you really want something that will help you to combat the time challenge or whatever challenge it is in your life.
Yeah.
I think that's the really great piece about understanding prioritization and being present. And in all honesty, I could talk about it. I love talking about this.
Yeah.
It's my dream life, like helping people to become the best version of themselves and helping them to overcome challenges and personalize their life.
It is so fun. I think that's a dream of mine too. I think that's one of the things that led us here.
Yes.
To this, And I think as we're talking, like, more and more, I'm realizing so many of these challenges are really just societal norms.
Yeah.
And they all are so counterintuitive to learning. It's like what we were saying earlier. We have all this research about what's best, and we just go the opposite direction. And like so many of our societal norms are set up in this way that's just counterintuitive to a lot of natural processes, and then counterintuitive to the biggest one being learning and growth. Yeah. Time, instant gratification, overscheduling, busyness. When it comes to time, we can look at it so many different ways, and then also just being forced to be on at the same time. All of these ideas like clash with the natural process of learning. It's kind of interesting.
It is really interesting. And like you said, we mentioned societal norms before when we talk about time or anything else that we've talked about so far. I had never been told by any learning mentor before, but I know there are people out there who should and probably need to hear this. I know that I needed it. I know that you and I have talked about it. And we should make t-shirts.
Right?
Societal norms and boxes do not need to exist for you.
I would dare say that societal norms and boxes don't exist for us individually. They exist for the collective, but it's not necessarily for a healthy collective.
Yes.
And I think that's important. Like, I understand societal norms because we are social creatures. And so we want to be in social groups. And the way we do that is by gaining acceptance and all this stuff from others. But I think we've created some of these social boxes or norms that like people just can't even fit into naturally. So like they're unattainable things.
Yeah.
Right? So like
I think
that
you're onto
doesn't actually
something.
help the society.
Yeah.
And it definitely doesn't help us as individuals.
Yes. To piggyback off of your idea, I think there are only the boxes you allow to happen or that you create for yourself.
Yes. And in that way, you're in control of things that seem uncontrollable.
Right.
Because our control is, do I buy into it or not? Do I prioritize that or not?
I know for us, like, because we've talked about it for so many years and we've really personalized our life and our lives and have been really intentional with our lives, it may come off as like, oh, these people are just talking about this. They make it sound like it's so easy. No, it's not. My God. There are multiple challenges in understanding this concept.
Right.
Like society teaches us and provides us endless amounts of content and messaging. And you can thank technology for that because the messaging business is booming.
Booming.
But the way to identify, I think, that we've learned, the way to identify if a societal norm or box is for you is to identify first, is it serving you? Does it feel right? Or what doesn't feel right at all? I think a lot of times when I'm trying to explain it to somebody, my example usually surrounds something like types of learners, which makes me want to like gag and scream. There are three types of learners. No, there aren't, because there are not only three types of brains.
Because what are we telling you? We're all different, but we still fall into these three boxes.
Right.
What? That makes no sense. No. I mean, if it helps maybe-ish, I don't know. Yeah. I think, sorry, whole nother conversation. I'm trying to stay focused. I'm trying to not go off on a whole bunny trail here. But like, yeah, that's so dumb. Carry on.
I was just going to say, so another societal box that I know you and I have talked about is ridiculous, but worked for both of us. You're going to like this one.
Okay.
Is going to college in order to find success as an adult.
Oh, God. Biggest lie we've told everybody in the last couple of decades.
We know billionaires currently alive and out there who did not. Some of them didn't even go to middle school or high school. No. So like, let's not play that game.
What else? You know what else a lot of billionaires don't do now, especially? Work for somebody else.
That too.
So again, all of these are societal things that we like have just put into place that you're supposed to do these things.
Right.
But for why?
Yeah. And I mean,
going
back to that example, I think you and I can both very confidently say it is one of the societal constructs / messages / boxes that worked for you and I as individuals.
Oh, for sure.
Like I wanted to further my education in a really specific way, and an undergraduate degree made sense for me. However, it does not make sense for every learner. And we really need to dismantle those boxes. We need to burn them. Like
yes.
But the only way you can really do that is self-reflection, time, communication, community, to do that and to feel supported, especially at that age where you have to make a decision about college or the rest of your life. Like finding a community.
I love asking kids at certain ages, like, hey, do you have any, like, have you have thoughts about what you want to do when you're older? And I love when they say no. And they're always sheepish to say no. And they're like, not really. I'm like, that is awesome.
Right.
That's so great for you. I was like, listen, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So like, no, you don't have to figure it out now. And there's there's so much out there to learn. There's so many jobs I didn't even know were jobs until I was past the point of being able to have that job. No, I'm just kidding. You can always go back. There's always time. You can always go back.
But you're getting to the point that like community, like you created community for that person by saying, there are no boxes.
Right.
You're, and obviously a parent or a learning mentor has told that particular person, like, learning is invaluable in today's society. And I think the important part about community is, like, I don't necessarily mean a school or a church, although those are places where people find community support. I know I did when I was younger. I mean, your life partner, people you choose to be around, or even an online platform where you feel like you can connect with like-minded people.
Yes.
Positive like-minded people.
Yes. Yes.
But every brain is different.
100%.
Every learner's set of circumstances are different. Every learner's set of experiences are different. So that's why societal norms and boxes and expectations they're just challenging.
Come on now. Amen. Let me get my choir robe on while you are sitting over here preaching. Yes, yes, and yes. Because again, right? Like you mentioned, like an online platform. Listen, I love using technology as a community because there's so many people out there in this same space learning themselves, trying to figure it out. Like it is the coolest thing. I'm obsessed. I just love it. I love hearing other people. I love hearing ideas about other people and like, oh, this is how my brain works. So here's what I do about it. So cool. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I also think here's my last one because there are a lot of challenges, but I think one of the ones we need to be mindful of is technology.
Yes.
And double-edged sword, because I literally just said I love technology.
Right.
I love technology. It feeds my brain because I'm constantly watching information. Like we just love informative things. We love learning things from watching other people. Like I said, building and whatever, all sorts of things. And I love using it to like feed my soul and be kind of encouraged and motivated and inspired. At the
Yes.
same time, right? It's so easy to slip into just entertainment. So it may not necessarily be technology, but like it's this societal norm again of entertaining ourselves, being busy, even just the busyness that keeps us distracted from some of the more important things, I think. Right? Like, because again, I love technology. I think technology is great. There's so many things that we are missing out on because of it. You know what I mean? Like, I have seen a decline in skills like handwriting.
Yep.
I've seen a decline in skills like sustaining attention. So being able to keep attention for a longer amount of time.
Yeah.
And there are developmental milestones. I'm fully aware of all of them, but seems to be getting less and less. And in adults as well. I mean, even TikTok
Critical
for a
thinking.
while, they went down from like minute videos. They were like really pushing 7-second videos because that was all people would sit and watch was 7 seconds.
Wow.
And that was like some of the most profitable videos for a while, were these really short ones. It's such a fascinating thing that we've done. And even like social skills, we're losing some of those things as well, right? I mean, we've already outdated ourselves today with the Oregon Trail reference earlier, so I'm just going to keep it going. Like you can replace a TV show here, right? You can replace a TV show with something like highlights magazines.
Right.
Even like a kid's show, Dora the Explorer. It doesn't do what you're thinking it does unless there's a learning mentor actively doing the other part to model it for the child. So it doesn't really work necessarily as well as we think it does. But if we gave puzzles and different things like that, like brain development would be mind-blowing, right? Mazes, spot the difference. Remember all these from the highlights magazines?
Oh, I loved them.
Find the hidden pictures within the pictures, connect the dots. All of those are building such important pathways in the brain.
Right.
And when we entertain, we are missing out on those pathways, right? We're not pushing, they're not getting as developed and as well traveled with down that information highway. They're not as well used. And those are the kind of things, if we use them, because they're the kind of things that build skills like attention, sustaining attention to details, making connections, problem solving, right? If we swapped out movie night with game night, we're going to build skills like waiting our turn, learning from others, strategic thinking. Again, that sustained attention, sitting for a long time and kind of putting pieces together, cause and effect. All of these skills, we can get some of that from entertainment. God knows. Do you remember the Roadrunner and Coyote show?
Oh, yeah.
Cartoon? All cause and effect. No words spoken, but you learned cause and effect. Learned what an anvil was. That's cool. But a lot of things. If we're just entertaining ourselves, we're missing out on a lot of development, a lot of thinking skills.
Right.
So I think technology, double-edged sword.
I really agree. And I like the way that you put it. I think my biggest reason for technology being a challenge is I almost think because it's unsafe.
Definitely can be, for
Time,
sure.
I don't think time is unsafe. I think that technology can be. And I think teaching learners about time management and prioritization, and there's other strategies that you can use around technology. But when it comes to technology, if you take a 7-year-old and a 77-year-old, I think the other issue is there's numerous discrepancies.
Oh, exactly.
Incomparable abilities, or just understanding.
We all have
a
different
7-year-old,
experiences, all these things. It's just, again, it's all different. We're all, sorry. Carry on.
No.
Just pointing out our differences again.
Yeah.
While you point out our differences.
If a 7-year-old is using technology or has much more access than, say, I did when I was 7, just understanding even how the world works and how people can function. I think that there's a discrepancy with technology and access because of socioeconomic status.
100%.
I think there's so much technology education that's required. I almost think sometimes digital safety and like citizenship courses are it's hard because when do you teach that to kids?
Right.
I think learning about the impact on mental health and over reliance of technology makes it very challenging for learners. Right. Even more so challenging for learning mentors. Like, I know for me, I have babies and I'm already trying to figure out like what age do they get a cell phone?
Do you know what age they get a cell phone? Whatever age works for you.
Yes.
And whatever works for your family system and your beliefs and your values and your priorities and all those things. See, right. Again, all of these big questions can be answered when it comes back to that intention and that, knowing that challenges are inevitable.
Right.
But kind of what's our priority, what's our intention. And then that gives you an avenue for overcoming some of those things.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you're totally right. I was like, oh, what did you read an article on it? I was like, what's the right age? I'm not trying to demonize technology because it has created so much connectiveness.
100%.
It's done so many wonderful things, but I do think that there are real challenges that technology creates.
Yes.
That I think to see how far technology has come to is really remarkable. And I think really what it comes down to is if you want to counteract, and similar to what you said, if you want to counteract the challenge of technology, it's important to identify what the purpose of your technology is, learn about it, personalize it to your use, and just take time to think. It's so easy to mindlessly scroll. It's easy to get online and not use critical thinking skills about 100%. Information when you're taking it in or for how long. But I do think it comes back to being intentional.
Definitely comes back to intentionality. And then, like you said, also personalization, right? Because if we know we can personalize things to what works for us and what we think is important, and first identify those things for ourselves, it's the counterattack to so many challenges.
Right.
And again, challenges happen, right? So our goal here isn't like to lament these things or demonize them, like you're saying, or like commiserate over hardships of life, but just identify them. And then so we can intentionally acknowledge them. They are challenges. They've created limitations for us individually, collectively, all of these things. By sitting and exploring how they've each impacted us personally, that is a starting point for kind of making some of these changes and overcoming a lot of these ones. And then seeing how they've manifested in the traditional experience that you may have had or whatever, that's gotten you to some of the beliefs you think about yourself. You know what I mean? Because it's all this like trail that all of these, some of these messages we believe about ourselves come back to these societal norms that are in place. And that if we didn't meet that, we believe something about ourselves. So when in reality, it's just, that wasn't for you, right? Like, I think overcoming them is all about personalization. That's like the biggest thing I'm thinking. Right?
No, I completely agree. In my mind, that's honestly the answer to every single challenge that we've talked about.
Right.
Can you imagine a world and what it would look like if everyone had personalized support, was seen, was heard, was led to new opportunities that spoke to their brain, their passions, their interests? Like, we've seen it. And we try to help people do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it were a more globalized concept that was synonymous with learning.
Right.
It's not easy. We talked about it. It's not easy to be intentional or to personalize your life, but most people are already doing it anyway. If they're being intentional about their learning, I think personalized learning is the piece of learning that really is what fosters the opportunity for limitless transformation.
Couldn't agree more. And as you were asking the question about, can you imagine what a world would look like if everyone had personalized support, was seen, was heard, and let all of that, for a moment, I actually did see it. And I realized how much healthier and happier we all would be.
Yes.
Because we would all just be getting what we needed. And we act so much out of what we don't have, what we didn't get. And I think that's the big reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want to.
We know the
everyone.
impact.
We want to spread that this is can be a globalized concept. Like, we want to make it that way.
Right.
And I'm with you. It's all about personalization. That's the biggest thing. Let's start with that so we can then explore how do we personalize from there. I love it.
I love that. Yeah, let's do that next.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks for listening to Everything is Learning.
We'll catch you next time.